Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles. I am Donnie, your host, and with me is a man who enjoys long drinks on the beach. It's Dale.
Long drinks on the beach.
Long drinks on the beach.
I like long drinks.
On the beach?
On the beach.
Okay. Not long walks, but long drinks.
That's right. I ain't walking nowhere.
Walking down to the beach and drinking.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. What's going on, babe, bud?
What's going on with you?
Ready to record.
Ready.
You got any shout-outs or housekeeping for us today, man?
I may just have a few right here on my drawing pad. I'd like to give a shout-out to Miss Angela Chaplin. Thanks so much for your donation to the show. A little drop in the gas tank. We appreciate that so much. It really helps out.
Appreciate that.
Yes, very much. And give a shout-out to our old buddy, Tuffy Mueller. He hit us up with some news about a case and some stuff, and keeping us, up with some news, and just to say thanks for doing what we do.
All right.
So he kind of gave us a shout out.
That sounds good, man.
And one more shout out to Brittany Phelps up in New York. She shared the show on her Facebook page and wrote a pretty long comment about the Heather Ellis episode we did, and shared it with a friend. So we appreciate that.
And if you hadn't listened to our Heather Elvis episode, go back and check it out.
Yes.
And you can go back and check out our old episodes, too.
All in archives.
All of them. And go to our website, click on that donate button, and drop a little money in the gas tank for us. And check out our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Dale's updating that stuff pretty regular.
She's trying.
And he does a great job at it, man.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I try.
I appreciate it.
Get a little Mario action going anyway, do we?
That's it.
Oh, yeah. And hit subscribe on YouTube.
Exactly. And you can also go on our website and click on the subscribe button, and you'll get email notifications when an episode is dropped.
Yeah, so you don't miss a thing.
Not a thing. All right, Dale, we're going to get into part 2 of Rodney Alcala.
Mm-hmm.
And where we left off in part 1, we were talking about where they discovered the body of Jill Parenteau, and she was a 21-year-old white female that was found in her apartment in Burbank.
Yeah, she had been killed pretty brutally
And displayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty sick fellow.
And starting part 2, we're going to jump just 6 days ahead.
6 days.
Jill Parenteau, she was discovered on June the 14th of 1979, and just 6 days later, on June the 20th of 1979, Robin Samsoe and her friend Bridget Welvert were at Huntington Beach, California, just hanging out at the beach.
Yeah, I think Robin had been taking ballet lessons.
She was taking ballet lessons,
and she's got to be where her mom had told her that they weren't going to be able to afford them anymore. So she had made a deal with the teacher that she would come in and answer the phones for her, and kind of like working a little job, in trade for free lessons.
That's awesome.
But they had some time to kill, so her and buddy went to the beach.
Mm-hmm. And they were hanging out at the Huntington Beach when they were approached by a curly-haired man.
Yep, long curly hair.
And he was asking to take their photographs.
Yeah, said he wasn't doing it for like a contest or something, which is usually his MO is a photo for something.
Mm-hmm. And one of Bridget's friends.
Yeah, one of her mama's friends, or her mama's neighbor or something.
Yeah, it was a neighbor or relative of
an adult.
Yeah, it was an adult person. Came up to the two girls while he was talking to them and asked them if everything was okay.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, he's just going to take a picture. And she's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
And she noticed that he sort of turned his head and shied away.
Yeah,
and
he left.
Disappeared.
Yep.
The girls separated, but what happened was Robin was on her way to ballet lessons. And she used Bridget's bicycle.
Yeah, I think the lady came up and they went back to Bridget's house because she lived pretty nearby. And then she seen she was going to be late to go, so she told her to take her bike.
Yeah,
her yellow Swin bicycle
to
go to ballet lessons.
Yeah, but Robin didn't make it to ballet lessons.
Nope. It was like sometime after 5, I think, and the teacher called her mom.
Yeah,
and said she never showed up.
Never showed up for her little job there and for her ballet lessons.
And it was her first day on the job.
So they got to looking for Robin everywhere.
Yep.
And that same night at 11:05 p.m., Dale, a nationwide broadcast was issued for 12-year-old Robin Samsoe. And they were asking for any information on her whereabouts.
Yeah, because when she first realized she was missing, she'd called the police, but they said they couldn't do that for 24 hours.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But this is 1979.
Right. So they called and talked to the To Bridget's mom, she told him the story that she had taken a bicycle and left to go, and nobody had seen her since.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody knew where she was.
Now, Robin's friend, Bridget,
Yep.
had identified this dark, curly-haired man.
Yes.
And she gave a description to the police for a composite. And she told him, described him as a young, dark, curly-haired man.
Yeah, and actually they said that her memory was so detailed they called in a forensic artist, and her name was Marilyn Draws, to do a composite sketch based off of what she remembered.
Mm-hmm.
And said basically it was pretty spot on after the 12-year-old had given them many details and had them change this and change that. Pretty much it was dead on.
And we've got a picture of this photograph or this composite, Dale. We're going to put on our social media accounts, and everybody can see how close it was to Rodney Alcala.
Right.
It was very, very good.
Especially for just a quick meeting on the beach.
Yeah. All right, Dale. On the same day that Robin went missing, a 20-year-old firefighter named Dana Croppa witnessed what she saw was a strange, dark-haired man dragging a young blonde female into the woods. It looked like, from her description, she wasn't really wanting to go. She was walking stiff-legged, being forced into the woods.
Yeah, I don't know if she was dragging her, but said she looked like she definitely didn't want to go.
Yeah. Dana decided to keep this information to herself.
Yeah, she was on her way to work for like a 5-day shift, and she was just driving. I guess she was like a firefighter.
She's like a trainee or something, wasn't she?
Something like that. Anyway, she was a firefighter ranger or something. It wasn't just a straight out firefighter. So she was on her way to work for a 5-day shift, and then she just decided, well, did I see anything? Was it wrong? Was it not? Was it a father and daughter? And she just didn't want to walk in the woods, so she didn't really know if she saw something or anything wrong, basically.
Thinking about that, I don't know if I'd have reported anything.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
She's like a ranger.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you see, and then I don't really know exactly where they were, but it was it a pull off to where people go in the woods?
It is.
Because, they said later that they found trash and stuff, so I'm assuming people go there often.
Yeah.
So
like that little area or something.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't that unusual to see a car there. And really what piqued her interest is the car he was driving was like one of the exact same kind that she had.
Yeah.
And that really was what caught her eye in the first place. Not
that
really
stood out to her.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. After this composite of Rodney Alcala was aired on TV,
it was distributed everywhere.
Yeah, he changed his appearance.
Yeah.
He chemically straightened his hair.
Yep.
It's not curly anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of weird to his girlfriend he knew he was always really he was really proud of his super curly locks.
Oh yeah, he would flash it.
Yeah, and said she came home and it was straight, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think?" He's like, "Okay," but because she didn't have a clue.
No,
his girlfriend.
She had no clue of his altered life.
And he'd also changed out the carpet in his car.
Yeah,
claiming that he had spilled gasoline on it and couldn't stand the smell.
Yeah, but she never noticed any gasoline smell at all. Right. She just believed anything he said.
Yeah, she was. Pretty much. Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, he was a smart, smooth talker guy.
Oh yeah, he was very smooth.
Talker, whatever.
On June the 25th of 1979, this firefighter Dana Croppa, she returns to the site where she saw the dark-haired man dragging a young girl into the woods, and there she finds human remains.
Right. So she just kind of walked in, hoping she wasn't going to find them, but she didn't know it had been bugging her really bad.
Yeah. But then again, she didn't report it.
Right.
Mm-mm.
So you just wondered if she didn't know what she saw, or if it just freaked her out so bad, or if she just felt so bad she didn't say nothing to begin with, or do we know anything really?
Kind of in a way, it might have freaked her out.
I'm sure
it might have messed her mind up a little bit.
It would have freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're thinking, man, if I'd stopped that day.
Yeah.
I mean, once I don't know. I guess you don't really know. It's all connected right off the bat. You're just trying to put it all together in your head.
Yeah. But about this time, Dale, the next day, Rodney changed his appearance, straightened his hair and everything.
Yeah.
I guess these curls are starting to grow back in.
Or
pop
back in,
yeah. Yeah.
So he just cut it all off.
Yeah, the straighten didn't hold, so yeah, he cut it off. Cut his hair short.
Mm-hmm. So he already knows the
heat's on.
The heat's getting on, and the composite's out, and then it looks so much like him. He's got to change quick.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dale. After receiving several convincing tips about a man who raped and attempted to murder an 8-year-old girl, which was Tali Shapiro.
Right.
Detective Craig Robertson furthers his research on Rodney Alcala as a possible suspect in the Robin Samsoe case, and he decides to drive to Riverside, California, to obtain his mugshot.
It's pretty weird how far technology's come where you have to drive to go get one.
Yeah, but this is 1979, so...
Right. Yeah, and they even got tips from the guy who was Rodney's parole officer at one time. Said, I believe this is your guy. And
he saw the composite sketch.
Yeah, and then also...
that's how good the sketch was.
Right. Also, the guy who witnessed Rodney take tally, Donald Hayes, he actually called in and he said, I've not been to the beach. I don't know Robin, but this sounds exactly like the guy that I saw do this all them years ago. Mm-hmm. And turned out he was right.
Yep. Now, this is what gets weird, Dale. After coincidentally watching Alcala's episode on the dating game, Detective Art Droz, which is Marilyn Droz' husband, the one that done the composite, he just happened to be at home and turned on TV, I guess, to have a little background noise or something.
Yeah, it said that he went home and he couldn't wait to go in and tell Marilyn how good a job she done, because I was getting all these tips and it looked really, like him. So he went in and she wasn't home. So he sat down, and I think he made him a drink, sat down and flipped on the TV and picked up the paper and started reading it, and he heard the noise. He knew it was like a dating game or story. He could hear the theme music coming on, so he wasn't really watching it. And then he heard Alcala's name, and it freaked him out, and he looked up and he reached in his pocket and pulled out that composite, and it was dead on.
What coincidence is that?
So the next day I think he called Chuck Barrett Studios and asked him what was going on, and they said that was a rerun from the original show.
A year earlier.
Right. So they sent somebody over to get a videotape copy of it from the production house.
That's so crazy.
Really. Talk about timing.
Yeah. Now, the detectives investigating the disappearance of Robin Samsoe, they compiled 6 photos of similar-looking men and showed them to people who claimed to have seen Robin at the beach the day she disappeared. And all of the witnesses shown in the lineup identified Rodney as the man seen with Samsoe.
Yep. I mean, it's hard, to not,
Rodney had a look about him. It was very distinct.
Yes.
It's almost like Richard Ramirez, his look.
Yeah.
Very...
Except he looked like he's Richard Ramirez and Ted Bundy kind of swirled in together a little bit. Bon Scott,
kind of does, yeah. Yep.
Well, it depends. When he starts changing his look, he looks totally different.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, when he cuts his hair off and grows a mustache.
Yeah.
He don't even look like the same guy.
No, and then some of these older photos you see, he looks kind of like Manson when he's gray and with the big beard and all that mess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll post all these pictures.
Yep. On June 29th, 1979, Dana Croppa, just remind everybody, she's the 20-year-old female firefighter.
Park ranger chick.
Yeah. She returns to the site where she saw the human remains. And after working in the same area earlier that day with a fellow fireman, Willem Popke, she became visibly upset when Popke threw what he thought was a deer bone at her.
Yeah, he just picked it up and threw it at her like it was being a joke.
Yeah. But she got pretty upset, and Cropper returned to the site to confirm her hunch that the bones found were those of a human and not an animal.
Yeah, she flipped out.
And she was correct, and once again, she did not share her findings with anyone. What the heck, man?
So she didn't even tell him then?
No. Now, just a couple days later, on July the 2nd, William Popke, he discovers the human remains while working in that area, and that Croppa, he'd been with Croppa that a few days earlier.
So I guess if they was like park rangers or whatever, they was probably in there cleaning up trash and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, working the same area, I guess. But unlike his coworker, Popke reports his findings of the dead body to the authorities. So at least somebody had done something.
Yeah.
And just a few days later, an autopsy on the remains were determined that they were of a young girl around 12 years of age. And dental records confirmed that they were the remains of Robin Samsoe.
Yeah, they had to use dental records because it was in pretty bad shape.
I guess animals had got to her or something.
I think the head was all, the skull or whatever was apart from the body, and the hands and the feet, I think.
Yeah.
But it was also pretty much deteriorated where there wasn't very much soft tissue at all. Mm-mm. It was almost skeleton-like.
Yeah.
So it'd been, I guess, partially buried maybe and then ravaged by wildlife. Because it hadn't been that long really since.
It hadn't been that long, but yeah, I guess the animals had got to her.
Right, because, it'd take a lot longer than that to break down naturally.
Yeah. But, if animals had got to her, I mean,
cleaned it out. Yeah,
cleaned it off pretty good. Now, I guess Rodney about this time is feeling the heat even more, Dale. And he tells his current girlfriend, Elizabeth Keller, that he wants to move to Texas, Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
And he's wanting to open up a photography studio in Dallas. He said the career opportunities are better there.
Yeah, I think he told her he actually had somebody that would back him down there if he would win. He was going to go down there and check it out.
Gotcha. But
makes more sense since I'm sure he don't have no money because he didn't work.
No, he's living off his mama's
retirement or whatever.
Yeah. So he tells his girlfriend Elizabeth that he's going to Dallas.
Going to Dallas.
And he's get everything straightened out, and he will send for her.
Right.
But Rodney don't go to Dallas.
Where does he go?
He goes to Washington State, Seattle, Washington.
1,000 miles.
Yep. In the opposite direction.
Opposite direction.
Yep. And while in Washington, Rodney rents a storage unit from Cecil Lockram, and he has in his possession several boxes of some of his items.
Yeah, I think he drove up and asked them if they had a place, and they had one unit left, and he rented it on the spot.
Yeah.
And started carrying stuff in.
Yep. And then he drives back to California.
It's gonna be a hell of a ride.
Yeah. And Rodney returns to Los Angeles to see his girlfriend and informs her that they'll be moving to Texas permanently on July 24th of 1979. But didn't he say anything about the trip to Seattle?
No, because he went to, quote, Dallas.
Exactly.
He's working everybody.
He is. He's working the whole, everybody he knows.
Well, if you think about it, man, he's been going a long time. He's now 36 years old.
That's 11 years since he started.
Yeah, so this is a pretty long run for a killer. I mean, plus he's been almost caught and let go so many times. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. On July 24th, they had strong evidence against Rodney, and Sergeant Ron Jenkins and Detective Robinson and other members of the Huntington Beach Police Department, they arrive at Rodney's house, and they have a warrant. And they allowing them to search his car and house and obtain certain evidence that they believe would connect him to the murder of Robin Samsoe.
Yep.
And they're going through the house, and I think when they get in the house, the mom answers the door.
Yeah.
And
knocked on the door and said, where the police were here.
But Rodney's asleep in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And they go in, and Rodney's still asleep.
Yeah, they wake him up.
Yeah. Hey, man, get up.
You wake up, and there's cops all standing around the bed.
Yeah.
We're here for you. Arresting you on a suspicion of murder for Robin Samsoe.
And they're taking all kinds of stuff into evidence, and they see a receipt.
Yeah.
For a storage locker.
Right. Yeah, I think the warrant was actually for photography equipment, film, both, and film developed and undeveloped, and photos and all kinds of stuff like that. But said anything not like that wasn't on the warrant, so he actually couldn't take the receipt that they found, but they did see it and thought it was kind of weird. Mm-hmm. So one of the detectives actually wrote down all the information. He couldn't actually take the physical receipt, but he could write down the information off the receipt.
He took out pen and paper and made a copy.
He did.
Exactly. Today's the time, I guess, if you take a picture of it with your phone, I guess.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, he made a copy of that receipt, wrote it out.
Figured he might need it later.
Yeah, you never know. After they got the necessary evidence from their search, Alcala was booked on suspicion of murder of Robin Samsoe.
Mm-hmm.
And at the Huntington Beach jail, and bail was set for $250,000.
Yeah, they set it high enough where his mom couldn't get him out this time.
You think about it, 1979, $250,000.
That's a pile.
That's a lot of money today. Now, Rodney was in jail.
Yep.
And he has a phone call with his sister, Maria Christine, which she goes by Chrissy.
Oh,
ain't that sweet? And in jail, they record their phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
So Rodney is telling his sister about the storage locker he has in Washington.
Right.
And tells her that she needs to go up there and clean it out.
So was this a phone call, or was actually she was there, or was she there talking on the phone, or do we really know?
We had this conversation off the air, and I think they were there talking on the phone through a glass.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. But Rodney tells her to go to Washington and clean out this storage locker. But they're listening, and they got it recorded.
Yep. Good thing he got the receipt.
Yeah. So Sergeant McErlane and Detective Robinson obtain a warrant for the storage locker rented by Rodney in Seattle, Washington. They flew there and searched the unit.
Yeah, I think they went the next morning, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They got a flight. And after 3 hours of search, the officers collected several pieces of evidence, including over 1,700 photos and negatives in boxes. And one was labeled "Ode to New York" by John Berger.
Yep.
So they knew his alias.
Yeah. And that, well, they already knew it was his alias, so they
just confirmed it.
Put them together right there.
Yeah.
And there was another one that was labeled something Tally something Virginia or VA.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but I can't remember exactly what it was labeled, but it did have Tally.
And also in one of the boxes, they found a silk bag,
Yes.
and it contained earrings and jewelry,
Lots of jewelry.
almost like trophies of some of his victims.
Not almost like.
It was trophies. It was trophies of his victims.
Right.
So, Dale, at this time, they've got Rodney pretty much dead to right. I mean,
Right.
they've got him.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of physical evidence, but they got a pile of circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
Because, DNA is not a real big thing at this point in time.
No.
And nobody actually saw him take Robin. They just kind of saying they pretty much think he did.
Now, the arraignment was held for the people of the state of California versus Rodney James Alcala at the municipal court in the West Judicial District of Orange County, California. And this was on July 28th, 1979. And Rodney pleaded innocent to the charges of kidnapping, lewd and lascivious act upon a child under 14, murder and robbery that were filed against him.
Yeah, wasn't me. Didn't do it. Yeah, he said he had an alibi. He was at Knott's Berry Farms putting in for a photographer job for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think his sister said actually the day before this happened, he was babysitting her kid, so it couldn't have been him.
And didn't she say that she had a receipt for a collect call from him that same day?
Yeah, so I don't know how they get it that quick, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So, yeah, they've got a lot of people saying that he was different places and that he wasn't at Huntington Beach that day.
Right.
Yeah. But Alcala's deputy public defender was Chris Stopel, and he was forced to step down due to a conflict of interest. And John Barrett was appointed as Rodney's new public defender.
Yeah, his conflict of interest was because some of the people that Alcala was in jail with, he was telling them the stuff he had done,
Yeah.
and they were telling him, and he's like, whoa, so I got a conflict of interest, so I got to back out.
Yeah.
So that's what was going on there.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rodney's first day of opening statements was on March 6th, 1980. And on March the 19th of 1980, this Dana Croppa, the female firefighter, considered to be the prosecution's key witness, Dale, testified that she saw Rodney forcibly steering a blonde girl into the woods on June the 20th of 1979, and that she saw him again the following evening on June 21st at the same location as the previous night.
Right, without the girl.
Yes, and she also claimed to have returned to the same site on June the 25th, and where she said she saw the body.
Right.
And while on the witness stand, she confirmed that Rodney Alcala was the man she saw on June the 20th and 21st. All right, Dale, let's get back to Robin Samsoe. Now, when they found her body, they
found her remains.
Well, they found her remains. They found bones.
Yeah.
They went back to Robin's mother, Marilyn.
Yeah. Yes.
And they had a shoe and some other things that looked like hers.
Yeah, and asked if this was her shoe.
Yeah. And she asked them to see Robin.
Yeah, she went to go get her purse and her coat and said, let's go. And he's like, well, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going to go see Robin. He goes, well, no, you can't go. You need to sit down. She goes, well, why can't I go see her? I said, well, ma'am, you don't understand. It took us at least 3 days to identify her. And she really got upset with him. She goes, well, what are you talking about? Why did it take you 3 days to identify her? I mean, how many 12-year-old long blonde-headed girls have gone missing here? And that's when he said,
there's no hair.
There was no hair.
Mm-mm.
And that's when it just hit her like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it really hurt her bad.
Yeah.
Especially finding out that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, getting back to the trial, Dale, there was an inmate, Robert J. Dove. He testified that he heard Rodney tell another Orange County inmate, Michael Hara, discuss the death of Robin Samsoe. And Michael Hara testified by elaborating on a conversation with Rodney discussing the details of Samsoe's kidnapping and death. But now, on April of 1980, the defense asked for a dismissal of the kidnapping charge because there seemed to be no physical proof that the kidnapping even occurred. And according to the California death penalty law, if kidnapping and murder occurred together, the defendant may be eligible for the death sentence. But due to the special circumstance law, Dale, and his belief that the prosecution, they didn't provide sufficient evidence for the change, the judge approved the defense's request for the dismissal of performing a lewd or lascivious act upon a child under 14.
Right.
But now, Dale, during this whole trial, they were trying to discredit Crappa's testimony.
Yeah, she kept changing her times and her dates. Her dates. It was like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why she was having such a hard time, unless she was just really mentally.
I think like we said earlier, I think it mentally affected her.
Right. But I think her first day of her 5-day stint there was on the 20th, so she should at least have that day right. But I guess after you think about it so much, you just start getting scrambled. And then, did you see it or did you not see it? You probably start questioning yourself after a while.
Yep. Now, on April 29th of 1980, the first day of jury deliberations, now they requested to have some of Crappa's testimony read back to them and were unable to reach a verdict by the end of the day. But the jury did reach a verdict on the second day of deliberations. And on April 30th, on the charges of first-degree murder and the use of a deadly weapon and forced kidnapping, the jury found Rodney Alcala guilty.
Right.
Yep. And the penalty phase of the trial ended, and jurors reached a verdict of the death after only 4 hours of deliberation.
Well, Donnie, whether he was he was found guilty or not, he was going to get the death penalty.
Oh, yeah.
Because Maryland was going to make sure.
Yep.
What I mean by that is Marilyn, which is Robin's mother, was sitting behind him, and she had a gun in her pocket.
How did she get into jail or the courthouse with a gun in her
pocket?
I'm
assuming in 1980 it wasn't really...
A little bit more lax, you think?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Surely they had metal detectors back then, though,
I don't know. Apparently not.
Unless she went in.
Unless she was going in with the prosecution.
Yeah.
Which could be.
Could have. Yeah, but she had a gun, her hand on the pistol inside of her pocketbook the whole time. And said Rodney would look at her and make kissy faces at her.
Yeah, because she had already made up her mind that if they was going to let him go, she was not.
Yeah. But when he was found guilty and all that, I think she said she actually smelled Robin's shampoo.
Yeah.
And a relief and calmness came over her.
Right.
And she took her hand off the gun.
Yep.
So either way, Rodney was going to get the death penalty.
Yep.
But after he was sentenced to Robin Samsoe's murder, Dale, the verdict was overturned by the California Supreme Court because jurors had been improperly informed of his prior sex crimes.
The prosecution put Rodney's record in, and the judge agreed and allowed the record to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it was in the first place. And then the Supreme Court said that it should not have been in. So that's why it was overturned.
All right, Dale. In 1986, after a second trial virtually identical to the first, except for the omission of the prior criminal record testimony, he was again convicted and sentenced to death.
Right.
And a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel nullified the second conviction, in part because a witness was not allowed to support Rodney's contention that the park ranger who was Crappa, who found Samsoe's body, had been hypnotized by police investigators.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So this dude is finding every way to play the system.
Yep. To get out of the death penalty.
Yeah.
Now, there's a third trial.
So we started in, 79, and then this one was in 86, and now we're at 2003.
Yeah.
All this time he's been in prison, but still.
Mm-hmm.
So poor old Robin's mama's got to go through this a third time.
Yeah, so just to back up, on April 2nd of 2001, a federal appellate court overturns Rodney's death sentence in the Samsoe case, ruling that the Superior Court judge precluded the defense from presenting evidence material to significant issues. That was how they got out of it. Now, on June the 5th of 2003, which is a little over 2 years later, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office filed murder charges against Rodney, alleging that he killed Wickstead during a burglary and rape.
Right. The big difference is coming up now, Donnie, is because DNA has made giant strides.
Yeah, it's made leaps and bounds by this time.
Yes. So it's going to be a little bit harder to get out now.
And in 2003, while preparing their third prosecution, the Orange County, California investigators learned that Rodney's DNA, which was sampled under a new state law, over his objections matched semen left at the rape murder scenes of 2 women in Los Angeles. Additional evidence, including another cold case DNA match in 2004, led to Rodney's indictment for the murders of 4 additional women. Jill Barkham, who was 18, she was a New York runaway found rolled up in a ball in a Los Angeles ravine in 1977, and originally thought to have been a victim of the Hillside Strangler.
Right.
Was Georgia Wickstead, one we just mentioned, who was 27, and she was bludgeoned in her Malibu apartment in 1977. So all these old killings is coming out because of DNA.
Yes. So now they've got him for sure.
And Charlotte Lamb, who was 31, raped and strangled and left in her laundry room, the one we talked about in episode 1, or part 1. And she was from El Segundo. And then Jill Parenteau, she was 21, and she was killed in her Burbank apartment in 1979.
Right. And all those were linked because of the DNA evidence.
And like we said, they were found posed in carefully chosen positions.
Yep.
So they had all the same MO. And another pair of earrings found in Rodney's Seattle storage locker had residue that matched Charlotte Lamb's DNA. So they've got him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And during Rodney's incarceration between the second and third trials, he wrote a self-published book called You, the Jury, in which he claimed his innocence in the Robin Samsoe case and suggested a different suspect. He also filed 2 lawsuits against the California penal system for a slip and fall incident. And I guess he was in prison for refusing to provide him a low-fat diet.
Yeah. You're going to sue him for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're on death row, but I need a low-fat diet, man. Now, still in 2003, the prosecutors entered a motion to join the Samsoe charges with those of the 4 newly discovered victims that we just talked about because of DNA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Rodney's attorney contested all this, as one of them explained, if you're a juror and you hear one murder case, you may be able to have reasonable doubt, but it's very hard to say you have reasonable doubt in all 5, especially when 4 or 5 aren't alleged by witnesses, but are proven by DNA matches.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in 2006, 3 years later, the California Supreme Court ruled in prosecution's favor, and in February of 2010, Rodney stood trial on 5 joint charges. So his trials have been going on.
It's 2010 now. We started, 70-something?
Yeah. They showed the jury a portion of his 1978 appearance on The Dating Game in an attempt to prove that the earrings found in the Seattle locker were his and not Samsoe's.
Yeah, he showed that because he had fired his attorney and was being his own attorney.
Yeah.
Like that ever worked.
And he would even put himself on the stand and answer and ask himself in different voices. That would be a show, man.
I wish there was video of that.
Yeah. Now, Jeb Mills, he was an actor, and he competed against Rodney on The Dating Game. He was the Bachelor number 2.
Yeah, he's a dude from Seinfeld, right?
Yeah. And he told a reporter that earrings were not yet socially acceptable for men in 1978. And he'd never seen a man with an earring in his ear.
Right. He said, I would have seen him. I don't think he had done it.
He said he would have noticed him.
He's lying.
Yep. Now, Rodney made no significant attempt to dispute the 4 added charges other than to assert that he couldn't remember killing any of the women. As part of his closing argument, he played the Arlo Guthrie song, Alice's Restaurant. It's about a protagonist that tells a psychiatrist that he wants to kill.
Yeah, he's trying to get out of going to the army.
Yeah.
So he just starts telling all this mess. This song's about 2 hours longer.
Yeah.
I went up there, I said, shrink, I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to see blood, gore, and guts and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean kill. And I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill.
And after less than 2 days of deliberation, the jury convicted him on all 5 counts of first-degree murder. And a surprise witness, Dale, in this trial was Tally Shapiro.
Yep.
Which was Rodney's first known victim.
Yep. The little girl that lived.
Yep.
Is now the one. She wouldn't come back when she was little. Her parents wouldn't bring her back to put him away.
So she got her day in court.
She got her day in court. She finally come in to face him.
When I first heard that, I got cold chills.
Yeah.
Man, that was just freaking awesome. Yep.
I'm telling you.
Yep.
You know, and that was probably the last thing he ever thought was going to happen.
Now, Richard Rappaport, he was a psychiatrist paid by Rodney and the defense, and he testified that borderline personality disorder could explain Rodney's claim that he had no memory of committing the murders. And the prosecutor argued that Rodney was a sexual predator who knew what he was doing and knew it was wrong and didn't care. And in March of 2010, Rodney was sentenced to death for the third time.
Third time. This might be the charm.
But he can still appeal.
He gets automatic appeal, didn't he?
Yeah, automatic appeal with the death penalty.
Which makes no sense to me. And, you know, I know a lot of people think different about capital punishment, but I think if you're dead to rights, you shouldn't be sitting there in damn 30 years.
All right, Dale. Let's get into March the 10th of March of 2010, when the Huntington Beach, California, and New York City police departments, they released 120 of Rodney's photographs that they found in that storage locker.
Right.
They were thousands of photographs, but they couldn't release them all because they were...
There's some naked stuff going on.
Yeah, and underage stuff going on.
Yeah.
But they did release 120 of these photographs, and they sought the public's help in identifying them.
Right. If you know these people or if they're missing, please let us know.
Yeah, and approximately 900 additional photographs could not be made public. Police said that because, like we said, they were too sexually explicit.
Right.
And in the few weeks, the police reported that approximately 21 women had came forward to identify themselves, and at least 6 families said they believed they recognized loved ones who had disappeared years ago and were never found.
Right.
So this, leads me to believe that Rodney had a victim count way up.
Man, there's no telling.
Yep.
No telling. And if that Crappa girl wouldn't have just apparently drove by that day and seen him going in the woods, they probably never would have found that little girl either.
Now, none of the photographs were connected to a missing persons case or unsolved murder until 2013, when a family member recognized a photo of Christine Thornton. She was 28, and her body was found in Wyoming in 1982.
Wow. Wyoming.
And it shows a photograph of Christine on a motorcycle. And it looked like she was just having a good time. She'd met Rodney, taking pictures of her and stuff.
Right.
And then she just went missing.
What the hell is he doing in Wyoming? Wasn't he in probation then?
Yeah, but they thought that Christine may have been pregnant and was just leaving.
Running away?
Yeah, running away, but they don't know for sure.
Right.
Now, in 2010, Dale, the Seattle police named Rodney as a person of interest in an unsolved murder of Antoinette Whitaker, who was 13 in July of 1977, and Joyce Gaunt, who was 17 in February of 1978. Rodney rented the Seattle storage, like we talked about, in which they found all the jewelry belongings to 2 of his California victims. And other cold cases were reportedly targeted for reinvestigation in California, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona. And in March of 2011, investigators in Marion County, California, which is north of San Francisco, they announced that they were confident that Rodney was responsible for the 1977 murder of Pamela Jean Lamson, who disappeared after making a trip to the Fisherman's Wharf.
What was she going there for?
Photographs. To be photographed. And her battered naked body was found in Marion County near a hiking trail. No fingerprints or usable DNA were found, and charges are unlikely to be filed, but police claim that there is sufficient evidence to think that Rodney did commit this crime.
Yeah, you pretty much think that would be right.
Yep.
In 1977, going to get her photograph.
Yep.
Yeah.
In September of 2016, Rodney was charged with the murder of 28-year-old Christine Ruth Thornton, who disappeared in 1977. In 2013, a relative recognized her as the subject of Rodney's photos, which was made public by the Huntington Beach Police Department and New York PD. Her body was found in Sweetwater County, Wyoming in 1982, but was not identified until 2015 when DNA supplied by Thornton's relatives matched tissue samples from her remains. And Rodney did admit taking photos, but not to killing the woman. And they said when they took the photograph in there, he looked at it in the jail, and he was looking at her on the motorcycle. He just traced his finger across the photograph, like tracing her body.
Weirdo.
Yeah, it was just crazy. But he did admit it, taking the photograph. Yeah, and on December the 14th of 2012, Rodney did plead guilty to the New York murders of Ellen Hover, which was the goddaughter of Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin,
right,
and Cornelia Crilly. She was the TWA flight attendant.
Right. Was it Michael? Was he went by?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Cornelia Michael Crilly.
Right.
And we've got pictures of most of his victims that we'll post on our...
Yeah, we don't know about most of them.
Yeah.
We really don't know how many there are. I know he's been convicted now of at least 32 murders and from 10 different states. So there's a pile more that nobody knows about.
Now, all these photographs that they seized from that storage locker, most of them can be found online, the ones that are appropriate.
Yeah.
And you can look at these photographs. All you have to do is just search Rodney Alcala.
Photographs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And these photographs of these women will come up.
Yep.
The unknowns.
And I recommend you do,
Somebody may know some of them.
know somebody, yeah.
Please check them out.
It's pretty wild.
If you know of anybody that's been missing or gone since the 70s, mid-70s, late 70s, you may help identify somebody.
Yep.
You never know.
Pretty wild.
But today, Rodney is still in prison,
yeah,
on death row.
Yeah, and bad thing is, poor old Robin's mom didn't live to see him get put to death.
No.
She passed away.
Yep. But Rodney will never be put to death because all the appeals going on.
Yeah. He'll die in prison probably.
Yep.
But at least Robin didn't get a memorial on Huntington Beach, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So her mom hasn't. They asked her what they wanted to put on it, and she said, "I don't care what you put on it about Robin, as long as you don't put his name on it."
Exactly.
And then we'll post pictures of that too. It's pretty cool. It was a place right near where she was playing that day.
Mm-hmm.
So in overall, what do you think? Where's this guy rank?
Man, he's right up there. I mean, he's up there with Bundy and Gacy and, if not worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway. I mean, he's up there because his kill numbers are way up.
They got to be there. They're way up, and it went forever. And just on, and he's just as sadistic as any of the other so-called big-name guys. And I don't mean, I ain't trying to put them over or nothing or say they're special or nothing. It's just, there's a few that you hear all the time, and then some like this guy, and you don't really hear much about him, or you just hear dating game killers, so you just kind of move on because you don't think much about it. But when you dig into it, this guy was a badass.
Yeah, he was pretty sadistic.
Yes, very.
And they throw these names on him that make them sound funny.
Corny, yeah.
Yeah, but they're bad people.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, he was a kid killer, He didn't care.
Yep.
That's a pretty damn, takes a special kind of trash.
Sick.
Yeah. To do something like that.
All right, that is Rodney Alcala.
Rodney Alcala.
All right. We're going to get out of here, Dale.
Let's do it, brother.
We want everyone to be safe, be careful, and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.